See, my problem with Obama, and it continues, and I don't understand it. You know, the reason he's been in trouble the last 4 or 5 weeks, and because of these kerfuffles, they're bad, but they're not awful.
Ladies and gentlemen, when's the last time you heard the word kerfuffle? Welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. It's time for Malzberg's Media Madness, and that means it's time for our friend Noel Sheppard, associate editor at Newsbusters.org. And Noel, you did that story, and then just moments later, I guess Chris Matthews forgot that it's not a scandal, it's a kerfuffle, and he had to correct himself. Here it is.
Anyway, up next, has the White House learned any lessons from the scandal of the kerfuffle rather over the IRS? That's ahead.
How soon they forget.
No, and it's kind of beautiful. I mean, we've been talking obviously the past maybe 3 or 4 weeks about these kerfuffles, and we've been waiting to see when the media are going to change their tune and stop actually reporting about the scandals and begin to kind of, let's say, downplay them and suggest that they're not as significant as they were saying a couple of weeks ago. And I think that this was Chris Matthews making it clear, because, you know, he's been, you know, very, very angered about the IRS scandal. He's been very angered about the AP. He thinks Benghazi is nothing. But he was very, very angered right from the beginning with the IRS revelations, and very, very angered by the AP and the Fox News James Rosen revelations. So I think what's happening now is the worm is turning, and the Obama-loving media are trying to figure out a way to start downplaying the significance of this, and especially now that we've got, I'm sure you saw today, some polls out showing that, you know, a couple of weeks ago, they were all orgasmic because the polls were suggesting that CNN did a poll that showed that Obama's numbers were actually going up in the midst of these scandals, which was amazing. Well, now I think they're getting a little bit concerned because you've got a Quinnipiac poll that was just released either today or yesterday showing that the scandals are taking their toll on Obama. And I'm not sure who did the poll, but there's a new poll out on Hillary's favorability.
Yes.
And she's plummeted from the low to mid 60s in favorability to the low to mid 50s, and she's still in low to mid 50s. But that's a big decline. So I think what we're going to see now, if I can predict, you know, the next week or two, and conceivably the Sunday shows, you know, in a couple of days, I think we're going to see a collective effort on the part of Obama's fans and the media to try to move the public away from these scandals and to think, well, you know what, maybe the Republicans are overplaying this, maybe they're overstepping. I think you and I talked about there's a big difference between using the IRS to go after conservative groups and forgive me, having sex in the Oval Office. You know, I mean, all of this discussion, they try to compare and say, well, you know, in 1998, the Republicans, you know, played too strong of a card on Clinton's
they overplayed their hand. Yeah.
They overplayed their hand. This is much more significant to an overwhelming majority of people, this IRS issue. So I think that we're about to see a circling of the wagons of sorts.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And it's interesting with Chris Matthews because another piece that you wrote had Chris Matthews really trashing our foreign policy with regard to drones and Gitmo and all that kind of stuff. And here's what he said. This will be cut 33, Will. All right.
The only way I could justify getting into a war is if I thought one side offered a threat to the United States. Any other policy option should be that we are not, once again, as we've been for more than a decade, simply out there on international television killing Islamic people. That's all we seem to do these days. And guess what? The Islamic people of the world, including those here in this country, are watching.
Yeah, they're watching. All we do is kill Islamic people.
It's extraordinary. All we do is kill Islamic people. When's the last? I mean, you know. I mean, this defies logic here, especially since, I mean, let's be clear. It was MSNBC and Chris Matthews and others, you know, Obama lovers in the media, who were tremendously thrilled when that Islamic guy by the name of bin Laden was killed. So, other than that, are we really out there? Is that all we do is kill Islamic people? I mean, I don't know about you. I haven't killed any Islamic people.
And not only
today.
that, he says the world is watching, which to me means, it's going to make terrorists over there, and Muslims here are watching as well. In other words, we're going to get what we deserve from these people that we anger here. That's how I interpret what he says.
Yeah, and I think what we've got right now, and I think that this is throughout MSNBC, is I think we've got MSNBC commentators, certainly including Matthews. I think they're very worried and they're very confused and they're very concerned. I think that they see Camelot is beginning to disappear. I think in their heart of hearts, they know that these scandals are all very, very serious, and that trouble is a brewing. The chances of them taking back the House, meaning the Democrats, seem to be diminishing at this point. And you even had Chris Cillizza writing in the Washington Post, I think it was either Tuesday or Wednesday, laying out exactly how Republicans could also take back the Senate in 2014. So I think that the dreams of the orgasms these folks were having on January 20th when Obama was inaugurated, I think that suddenly a lot of these folks are thinking they may need to reach for the Cialis to have their next orgasm.
Oh, man. All right. Well, on that note, we're talking to Noel Sheppard here on the Steve Malzberg Show, associate editor at Newsbusters.org. And I'm glad you brought up MSNBC because it's a perfect segue, and that's what we started out talking about. And as you've been reporting for a long time, MSNBC's ratings are in the toilet, and it was pointed out, I guess, in by another, I think it was Hollywood Reporter, did a story on it the other day as well. And we could give the numbers, but suffice it to say that they're down, way down from a year ago. Rachel Maddow in the demo 25-54 is being beaten by Pierce Morgan, which is a real badge of dishonor, if you ask me. But here's one example. Matthews is an example. They're all examples. But even during the day when they have this Alex Wagner, she made a promo, like Sharpton made a promo, this Move Forward promo. And listen to her, and I wish everyone could see it on Newsmax.com if they're watching. If you're listening on XM 244, America's Talk Channel, there's such disdain in her eyes, and she puts her fingers up for, like, quote unquote, every time she says something to mock anybody who's against illegal immigration. Here's cut 32. Let's give a listen and a watch.
Around immigration, there is a sense that we need to punish people when they come here and they don't know our language. We got to punish people who came here the wrong way, even if they've been contributing to American society for a decade or more. Bigger, meaner, scarier fences by people suggesting electrified, alligator-filled moats to prevent them from coming in, by the language that we use to talk about those people who want to be here. You know what? Those people who want to be here are us. That's what this country is made of.
Yeah, I don't know, but I was born in this country. I didn't break into anybody's country illegally, and neither did my parents. And my grandparents, who were immigrants, came here legally. So it's this kind of far left thinking, and Melissa Harris Perry, kids don't belong to their parents.
Right.
You know the whole spiel. I think that's appeals to such a small, little, tiny segment that people, I think, are wising up and they're not watching.
I think that's exactly what's happening, is we've seen MSNBC over the course of the last, 3 or 4 years, maybe even more. I mean, you could go back to Oberman. But, I mean, what's interesting is even Oberman would be better than the product that MSNBC is currently putting on. I mean, you've got this Alex Wagner, as you pointed out. You've got Chris Hayes. They're trying to bring in these, and Melissa Harris Perry and this other one, Karen Finney.
Yeah.
They're trying to bring in these young, more attractive, extremely left-wing folks. These are people that, I mean, I'm not sure if Alex Wagner writes for The Nation. She might. Melissa Harris Perry, I believe, does, as does Chris Hayes. I mean, it really is quite extraordinary that we now have a network largely made up of people who write or could write for The Nation magazine, which, as you know, and probably most people are unaware of The Nation, that's almost as far left, well, as far as the major periodicals in America, that is as far left as you can get.
Absolutely.
And MSNBC is stocking their entire lineup with people who have that kind of an ideology. And I would imagine, what do you think the Nation magazine's subscription rate is? Do you think that they sell more than 100,000 magazines?
Oh my gosh, I'd be shocked. Shocked.
Yeah. Yeah, so why would a major network, not MSNBC, but NBC and General Electric and Comcast, why would these folks, these are major companies, why would they be trying to create a product that is going to appeal to such a small percentage of the market? I mean, typically you're trying to expand your market share with anything that you're trying to sell. The Nation magazine, no one's ever heard of it.
Yeah, no, look, I can't tell you. Isn't what's her name is the editor of Nation?
Katrina vanden Heuvel.
Yeah, vanden Heuvel. I mean,
Right.
I mean, for years and years and years, and that magazine is so far to the left, so hardcore leftist and red, according to some people, that it just boggles the mind. All right, Noel, I want to talk about Michael Eric Dyson and a story that you did with the soundbite here. He, in the face of people, rightfully so, questioning and getting on Eric Holder's case, Michael Eric Dyson goes way over the top in defending Holder, and here's cut 13.
I think the Attorney General should step down, too, off of that plateau where he resides in high principle and whip some head. But he shouldn't give up his office. What he should understand is that he is the chief lawgiver of the United States of America, so to speak. He's the Moses of our time, and at least for this administration.
By the way, Moses analogy aside, or comparison aside, he's not the lawgiver. He's the law. And for Moses gave the laws, but he also wasn't the lawgiver. He was the messenger. So he's wrong in every analytical aspect of this. But the Attorney General of the United States is not the lawgiver. He's the chief law enforcer.
Right. Just imagine how biased an individual you have to be. You've got an Attorney General now mired in several very serious scandals. You've got people on both sides of the aisle, including Democrats. And, of course, that's a little redundant because that's what both sides of the aisle means.
I wasn't going to point that out, no, but I'm glad you did, yes.
Well, if you did, I was going to bring up lesbians. But,
oh, stop it. I knew you'd get that word in there. I knew it.
You got it. But, this is an Attorney General mired in a couple of very, very serious scandals at this point, to the extent that Democrats are even calling for his resignation. And yet you've got a guy, this is now a political analyst on MSNBC. This isn't just a guest. Michael Eric Dyson is now hired. He works for MSNBC, and he's actually going to such an extent to defend Holder that he's saying that this is the Moses of our time. Again, this was one of those fall off the couch moments. You play it back. Did he really just say Moses?
Yeah.
Yeah, he really did. He said Moses. Wow.
He said Moses, and he was dead wrong in the analogy. All right, let's talk about this Lena Dunham. And I said earlier in the week when I did this story from your story at Newsbusters that this is another reason, I guess, why I don't have HBO. And if I did, I would drop it. I don't have HBO. I haven't had it in years. I can't stand to pay Bill Maher's salary. And plus, they did that war series, which was very unflattering to our troops. So I just dropped HBO. And now you have this show called Girls. And Lena Dunham, apparently a star of this show, as you point out, tweets on Memorial Day, "Happy Memorial Day. I've already peed in 2 different Starbucks bathrooms." And it continues, as you point out, with her fascination of that bodily function, where she tweeted out previously, "It's my sincerest hope that the act of dying feels like finally peeing after a long, bumpy car ride." And this is what passes for, I don't know what it passes for, but I'm glad I don't have HBO.
Yeah, on Memorial Day, after I had seen her tweet and wrote this article, I went to Twitter and I put in Memorial Day and did a search of Memorial Day to see what people were saying about Memorial Day. And, this was Hollywood stars, TV news, anchors and folks, journalists, sports folks, all kinds of different people. This was by far the worst thing that I was able to find. I mean, it really was. I mean, what's the point of informing people that you urinated in a couple of Starbucks. I mean, I don't know. This woman, and you do realize that this woman, didn't she just win an Emmy? I know she won a Golden Globe, but I think she also just won an Emmy for this show. And I've never watched the show. People that have that I've spoken to say it is amazing drivel.
Yeah, well, I would imagine it is. No, I don't know anything about the show, and I wouldn't be surprised if she did win an Emmy. I don't know. Was there any apology as far as you know?
No.
Did HBO say no? Of course not. Of course not. Because it. And again, to me, it can't be that innocent. I mean, it can't have nothing to do with her thoughts on Memorial Day. I mean, I don't get putting Memorial Day and peeing in the same 46-letter tweet or whatever it is.
And again, all of the other folks, I mean, Samuel L. Jackson had very, very positive things to say. I saw tweets from all kinds of Hollywood folks far on the left, and they all had very, very positive things to say about our troops and about, please honor our troops today, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Strangely enough, not one of them talked about urinating.
Yeah, that is odd. Very odd. Hey,
Very
Noel, always a pleasure. Have a great weekend, sir. We'll see you next week. Appreciate it.
You too, sir.
Thank you.